that person and I knew I was.
Hey folks, let's spend some time with some friends up north. I'm Ben Cominos from WHBY in Appleton. Joining us from WCPT in Chicago is Patty Vasquez, and from the Minocqua Brewing Company, here's Kirk Bankstead. We've got the usual suspects from our Substack page with us, as well as a special guest or two. Wherever you are, welcome, you're up north.
Hello, everyone, and how are you doing? This is Kirk Bankstead with the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I am the lone wolf at the Up North podcast today. We usually do the Up North podcast at 6 p.m. on Wednesdays, but WCPT 8:20 a.m. in Chicago, in all their glorious wisdom, told Patty Vasquez that she was not able to do a podcast with me because I'm running for office. They even told her she couldn't do the podcast with me on her own time because I'm running for office, which I think that's a First Amendment violation. But obviously, she's got a job that she needs to keep, and I want her to keep it. So while we figure out our situation with Patty, I'm going to do this. We're going to do this show alone. I'm going to probably bring in good old Sam, my producer, from time to time because Sam's helping out a lot. But we'll get some other guests on the show. But for now, we're just going to do this. We're just do this by myself because Ben Cominos as well from WHBY in Appleton is he actually is a Wisconsin journalist, and so since he's going to be interviewing other candidates for governor, he really shouldn't be on our show anymore because I am a candidate for governor. So that makes perfect sense for Ben. It doesn't make a lot of sense for Patty because she's in Chicago, but we will live with it. So now I don't want to take too much time. We got a lot to cover today, like a boatload of information to cover. We're going to be talking about how the Supreme Court just gutted the Voting Rights Act and kind of lay out the land for all of that. We're going to be talking about what the Republicans are doing to try to gerrymander the South. We're going to be talking about what the Democrats are doing to combat that. Then I'm going to delve into Wisconsin's big whiff and how we missed the opportunity, looks like we're going to miss the opportunity to make our congressional maps equal. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about election protection, because at the end of the day, with all this gerrymandering, there's another layer of potential violence that's going to happen in November that we need to prepare ourselves for. So without further ado, the Up North podcast begins now, and we talk about the Voting Rights Act. Okay, so what just happened? Sam, do you want to show the first slide, my friend? Okay, so what just happened was the Supreme Court decision, Louisiana versus Calais, or Calais. I think it's Calais. If I do my French right, this decision just gutted the Voting Rights Act. And let's give a little bit of a background. So Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act was the anti-vote dilution provision. And for 60 years, if a state drew lines that diluted the political power of Black or Latino voters, you could sue under Section 2 and force the state to draw a majority-minority district that gave those voters a real chance to elect a candidate of their choice. So majority-minority means if, like in Memphis, Tennessee, if the majority of your citizens in Memphis are Black, Blacks are a minority in America, but the majority in the congressional district is minority. So that's called a majority-minority district. So in 2023, with the same cast of characters in the United States Supreme Court, they actually upheld the second provision of the Voting Rights Act. So it was Allen versus Milligan, and it was Alabama. And so Alabama gerrymandered out their Black population. Somebody brought them to court, and the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that they couldn't do that. They couldn't gerrymander a minority group out of office. So even 3 years ago, the Supreme Court was doing the right thing in the Voting Rights Act. So But now this Louisiana versus Calais, they drew out a black district in Louisiana in 2024. A group of non-black voters. Oh, they actually re-gerrymandered a group in, a black group in after they were gerrymandered out, and the courts forced them to provide a district that was majority minority. A group of non-black voters sued, said the new district was an unconstitutional racial gerrymander, and the Supreme Court of the United States sided with them in a 6-3 decision. So this came down like 2 weeks ago, I believe April 29th, and every legal group that exists is saying that this eviscerated the Voting Rights Act in America, which is having huge repercussions all throughout the country. Sam, let's show slide 2. So now it's not surprising that much of the South was already preparing for the Supreme Court to gut the Voting Rights Act. Why? Because we know that our Supreme Court, they know and we know that our Supreme Court is basically corrupted. It's in thrall to Trump. We can no longer rely on the Supreme Court to uphold our Constitution. It's very scary. Just saying that kind of sends shivers down my spine. But so they were working on gerrymandering these maps way before this voting rights decision came down. Here is the map of the kind of what's in play currently in terms of the gerrymandering that is happening in the country. So the states that have passed brand new mid-decade, so by the way, mid-decade congressional maps has never happened before, at least in modern American history. You don't rig maps in between the census, which happens every decade. So all of this that you're seeing happening right now is completely absurd. And it was done by one phone call by Donald Trump to Texas many months ago. And we'll get to the timeline soon enough. But so what is currently in play here is the states that have passed brand new mid-decade congressional maps between November 2024 and now include Texas, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, Tennessee, Florida, and California. That's 7 states. Sam, are all these states on the map, or are there even more? Turn yourself on. Oh, I can't hear you. Okay, we're gonna keep going. All right, so here is the timeline of when this all happened, because it's good. We're gonna get into the repercussions and what we have to do to fight back for sure. But it's if you're not as political as I am, I mean, I've been following this stuff every day, but a lot of the folks who are listening don't follow this every day. So this is how it all started. So in July of last year, almost a year ago, President Trump personally ordered Texas Governor Greg Abbott to redraw the Texas congressional maps mid-decade to grab 5 new Republican-leaning districts. We remember that happening. All those Texas legislators went to Chicago so they couldn't have a quorum to be able to pass this. It was it should be ridiculously illegal if we had a real Supreme Court. Okay, a month later, August 29th, Texas enacts the new maps targeting 5 Democratic incumbents: Mark Veazey, Greg Casar, Lloyd Doggett, Julie Johnson, and Al Green. A month later, September 28th, Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe calls a special session, enacts a new map to grab 1 more Republican seat. Now, I'm reading this because none of you probably, obviously, see my Facebook page every single day. I see it every day. I'll let you in a little secret. I do most of the commenting on it and the posting, but the Republicans, the talking points now is, but look at Massachusetts, Look at New York. Look at Illinois. They've gerrymandered their states. So all we're doing is just fighting back. Well, guys, we know that's BS because this is mid-decade gerrymandering, which never happens, and it started with Texas. I'm reading you the timeline to show you that it's all generated by red states because Trump picked up the phone and called them and leaned on them to do that. You cannot say with a straight face that the Republicans are just trying to balance things out. No, this is an assault on our democracy, and it's assault on voting and assault on elections by Trump. So Missouri does it after Texas. Now, in October, a month later, last year, North Carolina's Republican legislature enacts a new map to grab another seat. The federal court refuses to block it. Yet again, a federal court refuses to block it. December, the Supreme Court of the United States stays a lower court ruling that had blocked Texas's map. That means they overstayed it. Wait, does that mean it's so the maps stay in effect? The bad maps stay in effect. In April, now fast forward to this month, Ron DeSantis, you see that that heavily orange map right there. He calls a special session and he passed a new gerrymandering map, which gave Republicans more seats. There are legal challenges pending, but because that's a little bit darker because they've already done it. That happened in April. And then April 29th, this is when the Voting Rights Act hit. And so all these other ones in light orange jumped into action. Just a week or two ago, they jumped into action to redistrict their own states and give Republicans more seats for the next election. Now, why has this happened so quickly? Why is this happening in real time? We're watching our elections and our democracy being eviscerated in real time. However, don't fret. It's very scary what's happening, but we're going to get to why we're still going to win soon. So one, they're doing it right now because you can't have a new, people need to know, they need to know where their district is. And everybody, including myself, we're all collecting signatures across America to run in primaries. So in May and June, you kind of have to, you have to collect your signatures. You have to really register for a campaign, and that's happening as we speak. So they're gerrymandering now at a breakneck pace so that they can conduct normal primaries and elections. Now, reason two, the reason they're doing this so fast is the math. The Republican House majority right now is 217 to 212. And they have 5 vacancies. So that means that even though the Republicans have 5 more votes than we do in a majority, they have 5 vacancies, meaning that if they lose one more seat, they don't have the majority anymore in terms of votes. So they cannot afford to lose one seat without losing the gavel, and that's why they are doing this at breakneck speed. Reason 3, Trump's personal pressure campaign. He has publicly threatened Republican governors who refuse to redistrict. Indiana Governor Mike Brown was threatened with a primary if he didn't get on board. Sam, do we know if Indiana's not on board, are they? Your voice is tune in. Oh, put yourself on stage. Put yourself on stage. That's what you got to do. Yeah. Oh, shit. Okay, now you talk. Oh, I still can't hear you, bro.
How about now?
Oh, yeah, I got it. Yep.
Cool. Hey,
do you know
so one more time, what was the question?
Do you know if Mike Brown, what's up with Indiana? Because that's close to us. I thought they said no to Trump, right?
Let me take
Didn't
a
enough
look.
Republicans stand up? All right, you look at that. You can go. You can stay on stage if you want.
All right. Yeah, I'll
look up that while I'm talking. Okay, finally, why are they doing this right now? It's because now they have cover from the Supreme Court of the United States to do it. Every Christian nationalist, racist white guy in the South knows that now they have the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's got their backs. They've been waiting for this since not only the end of the Civil War, but the end of the Civil Rights Act. They've been waiting for this to happen, and it's absolutely disgusting. So that's why they're doing it right now. What does this really mean? It looks like the Republicans are beating us in the gerrymandering war right now. We're going to talk about what we can do to fight back, but it looks like they're probably going to gain 5 to 7 seats from this mid-decade redistricting, but they could get as many as 13 seats. That's like the worst case scenario. It's the Campaign Legal Center said that SCOTUS has eviscerated the Voting Rights Act. Basically, what we're seeing is when the court says the Constitution allows racial gerrymandering and forbids the remedy for it, the Constitution isn't the document Lyndon Johnson signed under in 1965 anymore. So the Voting Rights Act no longer exists. Everything that we fought for and Martin Luther King fought for, and he pushed Lyndon Johnson to fight for, all of that violence in Selma, all of that stuff has now been overturned. We have to do it all over again. Let's take a break, Sam.
Also, really quick before we pop out, just to wrap up with the Indiana update. So the governor, Mike Braun, did seek a special session to redistrict. The Senate, though, voted in December to defeat the proposed redrawing. Braun does say that he wants to push for another special session, but right now, at least in this cycle, it seems like they were checkmated there.
That's great, which means that the rank and file Republicans in Indiana stood up to Trump. Their governor did not. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate it. Let's go to break, and we'll come back with what we can do to fight back.
Roger that. Give me 1 second.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk and Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of Progressive Beer. The Monaco Brewing Company sells Progressive Beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy Progressive Beer, go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. We get it. Your liver is under constant attack. Alcohol is a dictator that takes away your freedom. It distracts while doing its dirty work. It weakens your judicial system and governing bodies. If you give it too much power, you'll never be the same. We have the solution. 8647 THC Hop Water. 0 alcohol, 0 calories, tastes like patriotism. 8647 THC Hop Water. Liberate your liver. Buy 8647 THC Hop Water and Joint Session, our THC Orange Cooler, by going to thc.monacobrewingcompany.com. That's thc.monacobrewingcompany.com. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Brewing Company, who sells progressive beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get progressive beer delivered to your door every month, go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. The Monaco Brewing Company is excited to partner with Brouhaha Coffee to create woke coffee. Get woke, go broke. That's what they say, right? Au contraire, mon frère. This gourmet coffee was awarded 2025 Roast of the Year at the Coffee Break Festival in Wisconsin, and it comes in both medium and dark roasts. Support our political action and enjoy fabulous coffee at the same time. For our Up North podcast listeners, go to the MonacoMarketplace.com, find coffee under the beverage tab, and type in Up North to get 10% off your order. That's MonacoMarketplace.com and use the promo code UpNorth.
Okay, everyone, this is Kirk Bankstead bringing you back to the Up North podcast. In the first segment, we talked about what has happened over the last year, what Republicans and Trump has been doing to gerrymander our country and illegally steal the election in next November. In this segment, we're going to talk about what the Democrats are doing to fight back. Okay, so first of all, when Trump called up Texas, and asked them to get 5 more seats. Texas did it. They arguably did it illegally, but now they have a Supreme Court that doesn't care. California stepped up. Gavin Newsom stepped up. Instead of Texas just having a legislature that just met in a back room and did this, California did it a much more fair way. They put it up to the people of California to vote. The entire state voted on a what are those things called? A proposition. Yeah, they have these things where the entire state can vote on and create laws, which is great. So Proposition 50. Oh, you want to put up that graphic there, Sam? So Proposition 50 changed California. It passed by a wide margin, and I believe it added 4 or 5 seats to. Oh, it added 5 congressional seats to California. The reason they did that was because California didn't want to rig the game more than it had already been rigged. They counterbalanced another huge state, Texas. Texas was able to rig 5 seats. California, by asking the people to do this just once, not forever. The gerrymandering will go back to an independent commission after we get past these treacherous times. But they balanced it. So California largely annulled what Texas was doing. Now, let's go to Virginia. Slide 4, Sam. So the next big state that the Democratic, majority state was Virginia. And so we've heard a lot about this in the news last week. Virginia also, as opposed to, getting their Democratic legislators to just kind of ram this through, they put a vote to another proposition to all of the folks in Virginia to vote to rig their maps to counterbalance all the other stuff that was happening. The stuff that's happening in Florida, the stuff happening in Missouri. So what Virginia did on April 21st, just like 3 weeks ago, Virginia voters passed a constitutional amendment by a slim margin, sponsored by Governor Abigail Spanberger and the Democratic legislature, that would have temporarily moved congressional redistricting authority from Virginia's bipartisan commission back to the legislature, but only if an other state had already triggered mid-decade redistricting, which Texas, Missouri, and North Carolina obviously had. That happened on May 21st. April 21st. On May 8th, just last week, the Supreme Court of Virginia struck the entire amendment down. It said the General Assembly violated the state procedural rules on how it submitted the question to voters. On May 11th, which is 2 days ago, Virginia Democrats asked the Supreme Court to halt the Virginia Supreme Court's ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court to halt the Virginia Supreme Court's ruling. Now, it's a complete long shot because the United States Supreme Court doesn't care about the law anymore. If it helps the Republicans, they're going to say, okay. If it hurts the Republicans, they're going to deny it. So that's where the Virginia redistricting stands right now. Now, there is another path here. Apparently, the Virginia legislature and there's been ideas. This has been passed out. This has been talked about. The Virginia legislature could vote out. The legislature picks the Supreme Court, not like in Wisconsin where we vote on Supreme Court justices. The legislature picks, and the legislature is a Democratic majority legislature. So the Democrats in Virginia could vote out the entire Supreme Court of Virginia if they wanted to. Now, Governor Spanberger, a Democrat, she's refused to support replacing the state Supreme Court justices to retry redistricting. So this is, by the way, this is part and parcel of why I'm running for governor, because this Spanberger governor she saw exactly what the Supreme Court did to their state. She sees what Texas has done. She sees what Florida has done. She sees what is happening all over the South after the Voting Rights Act was just gutted. And she's not willing to do everything it takes to make things fair. She's saying, I'm going to play by different rule. I'm going to hold myself up to a higher standard of rules than Republicans are right now. And which means she's not willing to do whatever it takes to save democracy. This is a theme that I've been seeing over and over and over again. And it's just, I hope that she changes her mind. And I hope potentially that the Democrats in the state legislature can overrule her. I don't know. But Virginia, you should do this. There's no reason you shouldn't do this. This is where it's a race to the bottom. And unfortunately, we have to play in the mud until we can get our institutions back. Okay, now that's what the Democrats have done so far. But what about all the rest of the blue states? So we have Illinois, we have New Jersey, we have New York, we have Maryland, Washington. Each one of these states, because they're Democratic states and because they hold themselves up to a higher standard, there are structural barriers to gerrymandering. They have independent commissions which picks their districts. They have state constitutional limits, or basically political will. But still, with all the hard limits you have, if I were the governor of any of those states, I would act first and ask questions later. Let yourself get taken to court. Let yourself push the envelope, because we're in a race to the bottom. Okay, so obviously the blue states should be doing something. Secondly, there is a thing called what's it called? Dummymandering. So this is a thing that I think that a lot of Republicans haven't really thought of so far. So if you gerrymander a district so much, like if you try to get everything, sometimes you're diluting how many strong Republican districts you have, and you just have a few more Republicans and Democrats in all of these districts that you're gerrymandering because you want more congressional seats. Well, in Texas, for example, there's a lot of Latinos in Texas, and a lot of those Latinos voted for Trump in the last election, and Trump started disappearing Latinos, sending them out of the country, deporting them. So he's hated right now by Latinos. And since they picked up 5 seats, they diluted their Republican majorities in a lot of these different seats. It's possible that will backfire and they will lose some of those seats. Similarly, in it's not South Carolina, is it? It's South Carolina. Similarly, in South Carolina, they've gerrymandered their districts already so badly, but yet there's like one. And the guys, it's James Clyburn is in a majority black district. They're trying to wipe the slate clean, just like Tennessee has done. They're trying to get all 7 of their congressmen to be Republicans. There's only one Republican or Democratic district, majority black district. They've gerrymandered so much already that it's possible that trying to get one more Democratic district will give them actually 2 Democratic districts, because they'll dilute the pool, and the polling for Trump is so bad right now that they'll dilute their majorities and lose some. It's called dummymandering. So basically, the point of this is that if the elections aren't stolen in November, and that's a big if, even with all of this, the Democrats can still flip the House and the Senate in November. The map is tilted, but it's not totaled. Every seat in California, because that gerrymander neutered Texas. Every seat the Virginia Supreme Court erased. Every seat we lost in Missouri and North Carolina without a fight. Those are the seats that we need to win on raw turnout, which is why this next segment the last segment of this show, we're going to talk about in protecting our elections. That's why we have to worry about that in Wisconsin. But after we take this break, we're going to talk about what happened in Wisconsin that we didn't get 2 more Democratic congressional seats over the last year.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our progressive t-shirts. The Monaco Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to monacomarketplace.com and go to apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to monacomarketplace.com and typing in promo code UPNORTH. That's monacomarketplace.com, promo code UPNORTH. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Monaco Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything from nuts to detergents to doormats. Save democracy with your wallet by shopping only at monacomarketplace.com. For Up North podcast listeners, save 10% on any order in the store by going to monacomarketplace.com and typing in promo code UPNORTH. That's monacomarketplace.com, promo code UPNORTH. We get it. Your liver is under constant attack. Alcohol is a dictator that takes away your freedom. It distracts while doing its dirty work. It weakens your judicial system and governing bodies. If you give it too much power, you'll never be the same. We have the solution. 8647 THC hop water. 0 alcohol, 0 calories, tastes like patriotism. 8647 THC hop water. Liberate your liver. Buy 8647 THC Hop Water and Joint Session, our THC Orange Cooler, by going to thc.monacobrewingcompany.com. That's thc.monacobrewingcompany.com. The Monaco Brewing Company is excited to partner with Brouhaha Coffee to create woke coffee. Get woke, go broke. That's what they say, right? Au contraire, mon frère. This gourmet coffee was awarded 2025 Roast of the Year at the Coffee Break Festival in Wisconsin, and it comes in both medium and dark roasts. Support our political action and enjoy fabulous coffee at the same time. For our Up North podcast listeners, go to the monacomarketplace.com, find coffee under the beverage tab, and type in Up North to get 10% off your order. That's monacomarketplace.com and use the promo code UPNORTH.
Okay, everyone, we are back with the third segment of the Up North podcast. Now, we talked about how we are in the fight for our lives to get back our United States Congress. Trump is doing everything. The Trump regime is doing everything they can to steal this election coming up in November. And unfortunately, they have the Supreme Court locked in to their cheating. The Supreme Court has eviscerated the Voting Rights Act, which is allowing the South to go back to pre-civil rights days and disenfranchise millions of black voters in the South. And but the Democrats are fighting back. Virginia still has a chance to get their districts passed. They're still fighting. California neutralized Texas. We are fighting back. Now, let's talk about what's happening in Wisconsin. So there is no doubt, and anybody that is from Wisconsin knows this, we are the closest state in the union. We're the most swing state, purple state. It's exactly 50-50. Biden only won by less than 1% of the vote 4 years ago. Trump won by less percent of the vote, less than 1% of the vote a couple years ago. It always happens that way. So in a state where the population is divided equally, 50-50, we have 6 Republican congressmen and we have 2 Democratic Congress people in Mark Pocan and I forgot her name, the woman in Milwaukee. So it's obvious there's a huge gerrymander in our congressional districts. Now, the Monaco Brewing Company Super PAC, personally, I raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to help flip the Supreme Court in 2023 to get Janet Protasiewicz elected. And then last year, it wasn't Chris Taylor. It was another Democrat last year, a progressive judge last year that got elected. And then we elected Chris Taylor this year. My Super PAC has played a pivotal role in keeping Wisconsin blue, and that means to make sure that our Supreme Court has a progressive bent to it. We are 5-7 now. Our Supreme Court is now 5-7. But that what this court did 2 years ago was they made gerrymandering at the state level illegal, or they adopted more fair maps through a lawsuit. And so because of that, our state Senate and our state assembly are much more fair than they were for the last 2 decades, when Scott Walker and Robin Voss 2 decades ago gerrymandered our districts. Unfortunately, the lawsuit that got the state districts more fair did not include our congressional districts. And so there was let me tell you. Oh, do you want to put up the districts, Sam? Okay, so before I get to the timeline of what the congressional district lawsuit was that's trying to get those more fair, let's look at these districts. So in the first congressional district, which is southeastern Wisconsin, it's Brian Stile, who is plus 0.4.5 Trump district. It's a light Republican district. In the second district, which is Madison, it went for Harris by 40 percentage points. 40, and then in Milwaukee, you can see the other one, it went to Gwen Moore by 51 percentage points. So, and then all the other Republican districts are like, in the third district, it's plus 7% for Trump. In the fifth district, it's 22%. In Glenn Grothman's district, in the sixth district, which is like Fond du Lac, it's like plus 16%. Up where Minocqua is, we have the ghoul, Tom Tiffany. It's only 22%. And then in the 8th district with like Appleton and Green Bay, it's only 16%. So you have these two blue districts with 40 percentage point differences between Democrat and Republican, and 50 in Milwaukee. And then everyone else, it's between like 4% and 20%. So it's obvious that these districts have been stacked and packed. And that's why we have the 50-50 state, but we have 6 Republican congressmen and only 2 Democrats. So this is, patently wrong. It shouldn't be this way. It's obvious it needs to be fixed, but somehow we have not been able to fix it in the last 2 years, and I'll tell you why. So this really is going to burn me up. And everyone, if you're falling asleep right now because you hate to talk about gerrymandering, wake up, because this should infuriate you. It infuriates me because we helped elect this Supreme Court, and they're failing us. So in July last year, Wisconsin Business Leaders for Democracy versus Wisconsin Elections Commission is filed by Law Forward. Law Forward is like the Democratic law firm led by Jeff Mandel. We've had our differences because I don't think he fights hard enough, but I say that about everybody. But Jeff Mandel sued these guys, and they said that, to sue these guys to ungerrymander the maps. So a month later, and we only had a 4-3 progressive leaning to our Supreme Court then. The Supreme Court declined to take the case last June. They declined to take it. And I call that they kicked the can down the road the first time. So in November, which was 6 months later, under Republican pressure invoking a 2011 statute, the Wisconsin Supreme Court orders the case to be heard by a 3-judge circuit court panel instead of taking it themselves. So they could have taken it up again for the second time. But instead, they didn't want to take it. They didn't want to stick their necks out and do the right thing. This is the people that we helped get elected, by the way. These are the 4 women, 2 of whom at that point we had really helped get elected because we wanted to make Wisconsin more fair. They kicked the can down the road again and appointed a 3-judge panel to do the I say dirty work, but to do the honest work of ungerrymandering our congressional districts. In March, the first 3-judge panel So in March, which is last month, the first 3-judge panel dismissed on the case on a technicality, saying that only the Wisconsin Supreme Court can rule on whether maps are too partisan. There was another 3-judge panel because that first time the Supreme Court didn't take the case, there was an appeal, and the Supreme Court, because there was 2 different suits being brought by 2 different groups, they bounced it to another 3-judge panel. Like 2.5 weeks ago, the second 3-judge panel, drawn from Dane, Outagamie, and Milwaukee. So at least you have 2 out of the 3 are going to be left-leaning judges. They dismissed the law forward case on the same technicality, and they wrote, as circuit court judges, we conclude that the panel possesses no authority to supersede decisions of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. So these 4 women, 2 of whom are all progressive, 2 of whom my super PAC worked really hard to elect, kicked the can down the road twice. And both of these 3 panels of circuit court judges said, you're not allowed to kick the can down the road because you're the Supreme Court. You're the ones that are supposed to do the heavy lifting when it comes to gerrymandering. So the answer to this is we've wasted 2 years because our left-leaning Supreme Court didn't have the guts to look at what's going on around us. So, and the Voting Rights Act was just gutted 2 weeks ago. So, and Mark Pocan was, we've been talking about it for a year or 2, but Mark Pocan has been writing open letters to like the Cap Times for the last year saying, there's no time to wait here, guys. Like, you see what's happening in Texas. You see what's happening all around the South. Like, we have to make Wisconsin at least fair. And had we made Wisconsin fair, had these judges done their job, there's no doubt we would have at least 1 more district. So there's no doubt we would pick up 3 because look at Derek Van Orden's district is gerrymandered. Stevens Point, which is where I come from, is right in the middle. And that is just wacky. So there's no doubt we'd have the 3rd district. And there's a likelihood that we could pick up the 1st district in Brian Style and we could have 4 and 4 congressional districts. But there's no way we wouldn't have at least 3 pick up one seat. And that seat could make the difference in America between a dictator and a democracy. And in Wisconsin, we just don't have the strength. Democrats, and this is the reason I'm running for office, because time and again, the people that we have elected to represent us, the Democrats that we've elected to represent us, the left-leaning judges that we have elected to represent us, to hold the line on the rule of law, to hold our institutions, they are not doing the job. They are not sticking their necks out. They're hiding from their duties. And that is the reason I'm running for office and running for governor, because I'm sick and tired of my own party not putting their knives away, and not taking a knife to a gunfight and getting obliterated simply because we don't have the courage to fight hard. Okay, so what else here do we have to talk about? Oh, that's okay. That's it for this segment. We can't fix the map for 2026, I don't think, unless Jeff Mandel and Law Forward or Mark Elias pulls a rabbit out of a hat, and unless this new Supreme Court, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, it probably can't happen. If it hasn't happened already, it's not going to happen because everyone's signing their nomination papers. So it's probably not going to happen for Wisconsin, but that's why we have to flip Wisconsin and elect progressives that are willing to fight as opposed to corporate Democrats. Sam, let's go to commercial and we'll end our final segment with what we can do during the elections in November.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of progressive beer. The Monaco Brewing Company sells progressive beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy progressive beer, go to MonacleBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MonacleBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Monaco Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything from nuts to detergents to doormats. Save democracy with your wallet by shopping only at MonacleMarketplace.com. For Up North podcast listeners, save 10% on any order in the store by going to MonacleMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MonacleMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Brewing Company, who sells progressive beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get progressive beer delivered to your door every month, go to MonacleBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MonacleBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our progressive t-shirts. The Monaco Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to MonacleMarketplace.com and go to Apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to MonacleMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MonacleMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth.
Okay, we are back with the last segment of our show. So we are in the fight of our lives in America to make sure that our vote counts and then make sure that Trump doesn't steal our elections through gerrymandering, the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. I've just went through how Wisconsin, yet again, our corporate Democrats have whiffed the opportunities they had to make our congressional districts more fair and be a buttress against what's happening in the South when they're obliterating the black majority districts. But now I want to talk about election protection. So if we still the Trump's polling numbers are so bad, and our economy is probably going to be so bad because of the Iran war. Gas prices are going to go through the roof. There is no doubt that even with the gerrymandering, there's going to be a blue wave in November if we have elections. And so Trump isn't just stopping at gerrymandering. It is obvious that he is planning an October surprise and chaos actually that will happen at the election. So the October surprise is potentially he's invading. He invaded Georgia to get the voting records in Georgia. He is subpoenaed, or the Department of Justice is trying to get all the voting records in all these swing states, and they are for the reason of purging people from the polls at the last minute so they can't get back on the polls. So these are the other issues that we are seeing that are in plain sight. And by the way, I'm as of a week ago, I was the only person. I announced I was running for governor a week ago. I've been talking about election protection for a year because it's obvious this stuff is going to happen, and nobody else running for governor is talking about it. But at the moment now, they all are after a week, except for Francesca Hong, because I entered this race. So here's what's going on that we have to keep on talking about. The Department of Justice under Trump has signaled it will send federal election integrity monitors to swing state polling places in November. Now, folks, the Republican trolls on Facebook will say, if everyone's a legitimate citizen, then why do election integrity monitors matter? If you just follow the rules, you won't be problematic. In Trump's world, an election integrity official is somebody there to subvert the elections, but with a badge, with an actual badge saying, I'm going to come into your election and screw it all up. But because I have a federal badge to screw it all up. You have to listen to what I say. That is what's really happening. Don't let any troll on social media suggest that there's going to be an honest broker coming from the federal government to broker our elections at the congressional level. That's one thing. Immigrations and Custom Enforcement, ICE agents are currently operating with no civil rights guardrails inside Washington and has been engaged in courthouse arrests. They killed Alex Preddy and Renee Good. They will go to polling places and be violent in polling places. It's just a matter of time, and we have to prepare ourselves for it. The Trump-Vance Justice Department is investigating the Wisconsin Elections Commission and individual Wisconsin clerks for prior cycle paperwork. They are already trying to figure out a way to call our elections negligent, or to say we're cheating, and to get their hands on our voter rolls so they can take people off of them. And the Voting Rights Act enforcement section that would have stopped any of this, there's an enforcement section in the Voting Rights Act, which is this all spelled out what happens on election day, that has been gutted. And so now there is no enforcement process that the federal government has to abide by, according to the Voting Rights Act. Okay, so Sam, put up the Committee of Safety logo. I have a friend. His name is retired. He's George Mason, retired Army colonel. He started the Wisconsin Committee of Safety, and we've talked, and he wrote a letter to Governor Evers saying, this is what's not happening right now to protect our elections. This is what we need to do to protect our elections. This is my plan. So all of you who say, Kirk, you just jumped into this race a week ago, but I want you to have a plan for everything. I want to see a plan. Why should I listen to you if you don't have a plan? Well, I got into the race a week ago, but I do have a plan. I do have an election protection plan, and it is based off of the work that George has done and based off of the letter he sent to Governor Evers that Governor Evers has not responded to, because Governor Evers is a corporate Democrat who is not has never been proactive a day in his life, and he will react after other states take the lead. So first of all, Mason is recruiting retired veterans to poll watch, and there's plenty of poll watchers. And by the way, there is an entire, I shouldn't say that in a vacuum, there is an election protection 501c3. And there's election protection 501c4 in Wisconsin. There are lots of groups who are involved in election protection. And so it's not like we don't have anybody worrying about this on the left. We do. However, a lot of those folks haven't gone nearly as far in terms of asking for what we're asking for in this plan. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. So first of all, there already is a statute, the federal statute, it's U.S. Code 18, and it said that the federal it prohibits any armed federal troops or armed agents at polling places, and this has been around since after the Civil War, since Reconstruction, and the penalty is up to 5 years in prison. The reason this has been going on since Reconstruction is they did the same thing right after the Civil War, and they barred black people from voting after they had just been freed as slaves. And they put troops at polls, and they scared the crap out of all these troops. So for the last 100 years, you can't put federal troops at polling places. I got a feeling, because we have a corrupt Supreme Court, and because the Trump regime is corrupt as hell, the entire executive branch is being more corrupted by the day, that they're going to ignore this federal code. And that's why we have to make this a state law, so that federal agents who are armed around our polling places, it's a felony for them at the state level. And so and Trump can't pardon folks who commit a felony at the state level. And so New Mexico has done this. New Mexico has made it a state law, a felony, a state felony for armed guards to be around polling places. Now, they have a blue legislature and a blue governor, so it's easier for them. But Tony Evers executive actions happen, right? I mean, Trump does an executive order every other day. And then he has to get sued by people to have those executive orders rescinded. So our governor could do something, even though he doesn't have control of the legislature. And so far he hasn't said whether he's going to do anything or not, but he hasn't even responded to the letters that we've sent. So that's one of the things, is that the Wisconsin Department of Justice and the Department of Administration should treat any armed federal agent's presence within 500 feet of a polling place as a violation of U.S. Code 18, and prosecute with local district attorneys. So because we might not be able to pass that at the state level, at least we need to have Attorney General Josh Kaul say that they will have Department of Justice attorneys there, or Wisconsin Election Commission watchers there, to immediately arrest federal agents who do this because they are still breaking these codes. We need that plan. We need somebody to tell us that's going to happen on election day. Next, pre-position legal teams. So we need to deploy lawyers paid from a state election defense fund, which Tony Evers just gave away. He just gave away our surplus, but we need to create a fund, election defense fund, to every county. We need to deploy lawyers to every county clerk's office in the 14 days before November 3rd. This is what Missy Hughes finally said she'd do last week. So Missy Hughes is running like last in the Democratic governor's race. She actually was the only Democratic governor candidate to endorse Evers giving away our rainy day fund, because she's aiming for the center. She's aiming Republican light. But we pushed her into actually releasing an election protection plan. She's the only candidate that has so far, but she only did it because I entered this race. But she said that we should, make sure that we have lawyers 2 weeks before the elections at every single county clerk's office, making sure that they're doing things right. Now, veterans monitors, just like Colonel Mason started this group. The state should actually help stand up a group of veterans to protect our elections. It shouldn't be like this rogue guy getting a bunch of rogue veterans. It should be an actual group of people who are trained to de-escalate violence. They're trained to watch. They're trained to do all the election protection things, but they're also people who have been in combat before. The one thing that we're different on, that of all these other election protection groups, is that you have to, at this point, because ICE has killed people, you have to expect violence, or you have to be prepared for violence to happen at the polls. Now, I don't want violence to happen at the polls. I'm not advocating that, not at all. I want there to be free and fair elections and safe elections. But what we're not understanding is that, like, it would really help if we had actual people who have been in combat before, who are trained in some level of combat to be there at the polls on election day. So stand up Mason's Committee of Safety as a recognized civilian observer corps, coordinated with the Wisconsin Elections Commission, with a clear de-escalation training and chain of command. Obviously, these guys aren't cops, but the chain of command, if something goes wrong, they try to de-escalate. If they can't, then they pop it up to the county sheriff. We also have to know if the county sheriff is MAGA or not. Because if the county sheriff has already signed to work with ICE, signed away, we know who these guys are because they've signed these agreements to disappear Latinos across the state of Wisconsin. We know that. So we know there needs to be a chain of command, and the chain of command can't include a county sheriff who's already suggested that he will bend, he'll try to help Trump steal our elections. Finally, hard line on the voter rolls. So any federal subpoena or demand for Wisconsin's voter rolls or registration data gets met with a same-day injunction filing. We sue first, we ask questions later. We cannot be weak anymore when it comes to our judges are like, okay, federal government, if you come in and say we have to do this, then sure, we'll give you all of our voter rolls, but we'll sue in court and try to fix it later. We cannot do that anymore. once they get our information, they're going to use it and hurt our elections. And so we have to be willing to break the federal government's rules or codes or laws. We need to sue first, and we need to ask questions later. That's the only way to play this game, because that's the way that Trump's played his entire life. I know it. I'm a businessman too. Sometimes suing people and being aggressive stops, it stops damage. It stops further damage. Sometimes being aggressive and not being reactive wins. I get that. So finally, backup tabulation. Every Wisconsin county should have a sealed, secured paper ballot chain of custody plan in place by August. This is not radical. This is what every clerk in the state already wants. It just needs to be funded. So we have a chain of command, but we have to it's not like Wisconsin elections have been, they've been completely safe and fair forever. And so the Republicans, only 50% of the Wisconsinites actually believe that they are fair and that they are done correctly, because we get so much propaganda coming from Trump that they're not, and from MAGA that, that we're screwing with elections. That's why Democrats always win. No, because you guys have no ideas. You guys have no ideas, and you hurt the working class. But we have fair elections, but we have to show Wisconsinites, and we have to spend money in marketing campaigns and days and big gatherings where across the state that say, this is how this is done. This is why it's fair. This is the chain of command. This is why your ballot's never going to end up in the wrong hands and disappear. We have to show people that and educate them once again. And we can't just rely on propaganda, because that's what's led people to not trust our elections in the state of Wisconsin. Okay, now that's the plan. Obviously, I'm going to get asked for the plan again, because a lot of people aren't watching this necessarily, but that's one plan. I got a lot of more plans, and I'm gonna talk about them in due time. Now I want to talk about this race, and then I'll be done. Election protection is, who's talking about election protection among the Democrats that I am running against right now? Folks are criticizing me because I'm slamming the Democratic candidates, and we all are supposed to be working together to defeat Tom Tiffany. I'm not working together to defeat Tom Tiffany. Tom Tiffany will be defeated because Trump's regime is in the shitter right now. Tom Tiffany is he's a rubber stamping ghoul. I call him Viceroy Tiffany. He's like the Viceroy in Star Wars, like that guy who wore like the brown robe, who will do whatever Emperor Palpatine tells him to do. So Tom Tiffany's going to get beat. Whoever wins this primary is going to be the next governor in the state of Wisconsin. The problem is that next governor in the state of Wisconsin has to go against Trump in 2 years. And Trump is going to send armed guards to Wisconsin. He's going to send violence to Wisconsin. And so I'm fighting against that outcome, and I'm fighting to protect our elections. That's the reason I'm criticizing my other fellow Democratic candidates, because they're not talking about this. They're not talking about they're just talking about why you should vote for me as opposed to Tom Tiffany. So Missy Hughes she released a stand up to Trump and Tom Tiffany strategy just last week. She said, if the federal government tries to step in and access Wisconsin's voter rolls or interfere with how we run our elections before or after votes are cast, Missy will take them to court immediately and take legal action to protect our local clerks from interference. It's great. The only reason she came out with that plan is because I jumped into this race. But I applaud her for it, because at least she's talking about it. And that's the 100% of the reason I got in this race, is to force all the other candidates to talk about election protection. So way to go, Missy. David Crowley. His stump speech is currently focused on affordable housing, public schools, and affordability, and the affordability crisis. He's got no public election protection plan in his campaign. That's David Crowley. Sarah Rodriguez is running on healthcare and abortion. She's got no public election protection plan. Mandela Barnes, he entered the race in October 2025. He has not made an election protection a featured plank in a year. Kelda Royce calls herself a common sense Democrat pivoting to rural voters. She's a progressive from Madison. That's her game plan, is to try to look less progressive. But she is not. I talked to her about releasing an election protection plan. I said I would endorse her if she released an election protection plan, and she said she didn't want to because she didn't want to scare voters. Well, guess what, folks? I'm here to scare you so that you actually plan for what's going to happen and actually overwhelm whatever does happen and make sure that you vote in November. Francesca Hong, she does not have an election protection plan. Joel Brennan, the same Department of Administration cabinet secretary that helped Tony Evers bounce our lawsuit to get rid of voucher schools in Wisconsin. This guy has stopped me from helping public schools. He's running too. He's got no election protection plan. So folks, that's the end of the show. But I just wanted to tell you that we spent an hour talking about what's really happening in front of our own eyes in terms of Trump doing everything he possibly can do to steal the election in the fall. It starts with gerrymandering. Then it goes to confiscating our voter rolls. All of that is nonviolent and happens in court. But at the end of the day, if he has not already won by then, he will resort to violence on our election day. And we have to be prepared for that, and we have to have a plan for it. And that's why I'm running for governor, because I believe I'm the strongest candidate to actually stand up to Trump and to actually be proactive in protecting Wisconsinites as opposed to reactive. So thanks a lot for listening, everyone. I'm going to be back next week for the Up North podcast. We're going to be doing this at 1:00, I think, from now on. I do my podcast office hours at 1:00 on Tuesdays. We talk about different issues then. It's not as long. And I thank you all for listening, and I will see you next week. Oh, don't play the ending credits yet, Sam. We are doing election. We are signing nomination signatures in Madison on Friday and Saturday. We got a great guy playing the guitar, Joe G, from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock at the Madison Tap Room on Friday, 6 to 9 o'clock on Saturday. We're playing the music. I'm doing a free beer tasting. I'm giving this same kind of speech, hopefully less long-winded. But the goal is to sign nomination papers. I need 2,000 before June 1st in order to get on the ballot so I can keep on talking about how to protect our elections. Thanks a lot. Roll the credits, my friend.
Let me die.